to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and today's show is sponsored by Revel Woods. I have John Dupra here with me. He is the CEO of Revel Woods, and he is my friend. If you are unfamiliar with John, he grew up helping his father, Craig, in the wood flooring business. Craig, his father, started out in the wood flooring business working as an installer, then as a refinisher, and before eventually opening his own wholesale wood flooring distribution company in Rochester, New York. John is like many of us who have entrepreneurial parents. You're going to school, and after school, you're going to work with the parents, right? So John did this until eventually he did take a job with Saint-Gobain, a large materials manufacturing company where he traveled the country as a sales engineer, working with flooring contractors for a period of 8 years. He ended up coming home. You all do, right? Come on back home to the family business, right? Busting John. But right, you go out, you earn some spurs, you cut some teeth, and you come back to the family business. But the thing is, John is a visionary. And while he did come back and he was operations manager at the family business, he had this idea to bring an online boutique flooring showroom experience to interior designers. He said the inspiration came from high-end fashion sites like Stitch Fix and Trunk Club. And this is how Revel Woods was born. We always say that Revel Woods has a truly unique way to enable you as an interior designer to learn about and confidently specify hardwood floors on your projects. And it has been their mission to always make the buying process of expert curated high quality hardwood floors possible and easy. All right. Now, working with interior designers over these last several years, John has learned even more things. Okay. He's understood more of the pain points that you face when you do hardwood flooring projects. And so he has given it some thought. They've made a pivot in the business, which he's going to tell you about today. He's also here today to share great tips on how he has really created some fundamental strategic partnerships in his business right from the beginning that have impacted his business. He says it's the reason why his tech startup / wood flooring company is here and thriving. All right. He has reviewed, he's reflected, he's understood that there is a right way to develop and maintain these relationships. And he's going to share those tactics with you today. All right. I'm so happy to have you back on the show today, John. Here we go. Hey, John. Thanks for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, LuAnn. Thank you for having me back. Actually, yes. I'm a well-designed veteran at this point.
This is true. This is true. Longtime friend first, longtime sponsor of the show. Let's not forget that you and the Vin Man talk almost every single Friday for like the last, 4 years?
He texted me right before I jumped on here and said, hey, I'm in the car for an hour. Do you have a minute to talk? And I was like, no, actually, I have a conflict at the moment.
Yeah. And you're like, wait, it's Thursday. It's not Friday. You call me Fridays, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if I told him I was going to be on the show. And you've got so many people on the show. You probably didn't tell him either. So.
Oh, I did actually.
Oh, you did?
I said, he goes, oh, what are you going? What are you doing today? I'm like, I'm interviewing John again today. He's like, oh, that's cool.
Oh, so. Well, I am a huge fan of you and the Vin Man, and Vin Man and I talk, well, I would say almost weekly, although I know the last few weeks you guys have been pretty busy. You were telling me a little bit about the chaos in your world.
Exactly. So, okay. So here's the thing, John. Today, later in the show, I'm going to ask you about the changes that you've made to Revel Woods over the couple of years since you've been working with interior designers and being a source for them for hardwood flooring. But the thing is, you know me, I'm like, you got to teach me something. And so I do want to learn about Revel Woods, but I'm going to make you teach me something before we get there.
I don't know. I'll see if I can. You know an awful lot, but if it's review for you, it'll be new for someone else.
That's it. So we talked about strategic partnerships, and you have a really particular superpower for this that you have. If we wind it back, you had this idea for this, innovative new way to think about hardwood flooring, that even being a second generation hardwood flooring person in your family and in the, your dad being in the industry for 4+ decades, you just came out with this whole new approach to it. But that approach required, because it was a completely different way to do flooring, it required a whole different avenue of exposing people to the idea, is the only way I can think to frame it. But that happened to be something that you were really, really good at. So forming strategic partnerships, I think, is like kind of the catchphrase that we're settling on here.
Yeah. So, effectively what, at least with my story, anybody can kind of buy their way into anything. So you want to start a business, you raise a ton of money. You can buy customers, you can buy partnerships. Everybody wants to work with you. I didn't have that. I didn't have a ton of money. I had very little resources. So for me to get off the ground with my business, and the partnership aspect doesn't really pertain just to flooring necessarily. It's just, if you're getting started and you didn't raise $20 million, what do you do? Like, how do you get to the point where you can get people to talk to you? How do you get help? And a lot of the success that we've had has been based on the ability to form solid alliances, friendships, partnerships with people, some short-term, some mid-term, some long-term. And I think that how to do that and how to approach those was really valuable, and is probably the reason I'm still here. We're still in business. We're still having our best year ever, in spite of the fact that the remodeling industry is way, way down nationwide this year. And a lot of that is because of the ability to work with others. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come break that down, and hopefully somebody can learn how to do it without just buying it.
Yeah. So question for you. Did you do it instinctively, and then after one or two strategic partnerships and wait, that's working and let me do more of that? Or did you know from the beginning, like, okay, I don't have VC money, I don't have this, I don't have that, so this is going to be my tactic. I'm going to go after creating relationships, meaningful relationships, and developing partnerships. Was it chicken or the egg?
It's kind of both. We borrowed a little initially when we first started, before I met you, and didn't know what I was doing. We took out probably $250,000 SBA loan, which sounded like a lot of money, and to me still is quite a bit of money. Because we thought, you know what, we were really bootstrapping this. We were building it. Honestly, I was fortunate enough. I kind of built it out of a business my parents had owned and run. So I wasn't starting entirely from square one, but I don't know if it makes much of a difference, honestly. It was starting at very little. We took out a $250,000 SBA loan, blew that in like a weekend. We thought, hey, we're going to find, at that point, this is going to be a long list of my failures, so I hope you're ready. But they're important, right? Because failures aren't really failures. They're tests. Right. And we need to learn from them, and that's how we grow. So what we did initially is I didn't think, okay, I need to just do this the old fashioned way. Like, I looked at my network. I knew a lot of people in the flooring industry. Hooray for me. I know everybody gets super jealous when I say that, but I got a deep flooring Rolodex, and I don't care who knows it. But, I didn't know anybody. We thought maybe we would target designers. That was something kind of new. It was this, and from the flooring industry perspective, the designer was like this shiny, distant object. It was like, how do we get designers? And not really understanding what that meant. but I didn't know anybody in that industry. I couldn't use the network that I'd already had. So I kind of had to start from scratch. And the first thing we did, to go back to my $250,000 SBA loan, which I'm still paying off, was the worst thing we ever did, honestly, just trying to throw money at it and buy your way in.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, I'm not saying you can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
but even then, if you don't know what you're doing, you can really, I mean, the best way to make a small fortune in that case is start with a large one.
Right.
So what we did was, it was kind of an interesting story. I went on YouTube and I thought, what's the biggest interior design channel I could find at that time? And so we found these young kind of influencers. This was maybe 2016-ish, when we were just kind of getting started, and they had 2 million subscribers, which was a real lot. Yeah. And it was kind of like an HGTV-ish type show. They were really nice people. For all I know, you've interviewed them at some point. You've interviewed everybody, but it's, we got in with them. I talked to their aid. They were represented by a Hollywood agent. We gave them like all tens of thousands of dollars plus a free floor for their house. They did this video featuring us, featuring what we were doing. It got, I think in the first few months, 800,000 views, which at that time for a flooring video was a lot. I was so proud of myself as this marketing person. Guess what we got for sales off of that video? Nothing. Not one, not $1. It just fell spectacularly flat. And at that point I realized, all right, we got to change our approach. We need to figure out, I got to figure out how are we going to build relationships? And this is a relationship business, and flooring is it's not a widget. It's not some little thing you can kind of just sell and ship and put on Amazon and call it a day. It's a hugely technical sale. It's a long-term purchase. It's in your house for years and years and years. And so a lot of it came down to how we're going to build proper relationships. And so then I thought, okay, I don't know anybody in this industry. How do I break into an industry that I don't know anybody? And I don't have any money now because I spent it all on a YouTube video. We spent it on other things too, but equally fruitful, I should say. But that payment every month is very real. So I kind of changed the approach, and that was what it started. And actually the way, I don't know if I've told the story of how I came on your radar on the show before. Have I?
I don't know that you've told it on the show, but I just learned in the last 6 months that it was because of Aubrey. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that. Right? So Aubrey is our head of business development, and we hired her a couple of years ago, but I knew her prior to that. And that was part of this story. Was I just started going to people I knew who were designers, and Aubrey had her own design business and was working for a design build firm at the time that we were selling flooring to. And I just started asking my friends, like, who do you listen to, or who do you read, or who do you, interior design, residential interior design. There isn't sort of one central organization. There's a few organizations that are wonderful. IDS for one is one of my favorites, but there are others that I like too. I don't want to throw shade on anybody. But in the flooring industry, especially wood flooring, there's the National Wood Flooring Association, and that's kind of it. There really isn't. If you want to get in, that's where you go.
16 places to find the flooring people.
Right.
Whereas the design industry, it's a little bit more, go to ASID, go to IDS, go to WCAA, or just go to High Point or whatever, right? Or they're all over. Right?
Or even the shows, right? I mean, and then commercial design and residential design, two different things. And obviously, like, your audience knows all this already, but the people that I were working with at the time didn't know. They put architects, designers, and decorators all in the same category.
All in one bucket.
Yeah. Which, as we all know, is a huge faux pas. And I personally would never do that. But but anyway, so I'm getting there the long way, and I should probably speed this up. So basically I just started asking, like, well, who do you read? Who do you listen to? And I just started cold calling. And so Aubrey had said that she was listening to this podcast, was I think relatively new at the time, called A Well-Designed Business. And I thought, we're talking about selling a product or a service that improves design as a business. This doesn't make you a better designer. It makes you a better business person because it's added this expertise and revenue stream effectively. So I thought, well, that's the person I need to talk to. So I just went to your website. And at the time I'd emailed you, kind of cold emailed. And one of the primary points I want to say about success, and this kind of leads to this too, because I don't want to say that anybody can just follow my path and then be best friends with you like I am, but it's because it's not going to happen. Doors closed, suckers. So, kick that ladder behind me after I used it. So, but I will say this though, a lot of times in America and maybe other places, we tend to conflate luck and talent. And I think talent is very important and talent is very real, but we tend to minimize luck in a lot of this. I mean, even the fact that I was born in the industry I was born in, I mean, it's not the most glamorous, but there was a lot of, there's a lot of fortunate aspects of that. Born where I was born, when I was born, being even just in America. And I'm not saying that there aren't other countries you can be just as fortunate to be in, but I know that being born in America has afforded me a ton of opportunities. A lot of people in the world don't get. That had nothing to do with me and my work ethic and my
it was given
$1 million smile.
Yeah.
Right? Even the $1 million smile I inherited. It's like a $500,000 smile. I mean, I don't want to overdo it here, but the so much of it is luck. And I think even our relationship, I caught you at, I think, the right time. And not to say that we wouldn't still be friends if I caught you 5 years later, but that was luck. A lot of that was luck and recognizing that. And I think part of what I've been able to do and what a lot of successful people do is increase your luck surface area. You're not going to be able to brute force your way into everything all the time. Sometimes you're going to just randomly be at an event, be at a party, be at LuAnn Live and meet somebody who is going to change the trajectory of your life and career forever. And not going to those things or not doing those things is one way to decrease your luck surface area, but attending those events and then not only attending, but being prepared. So when you do meet that person, you're ready with what it is you need to do to win them over, to not just endear yourself to them, but also be able to provide value yourself. I mean, if my business is I think super interesting and it's evolved in a lot of really cool ways, and I'm really proud of it. But if I ran into Jeff Bezos, former CEO of Amazon, in the elevator and wanted to sell my business to him, I don't think I could do it. I don't think what I'm offering is something he would buy. Right. So even if I had that opportunity, I'm not prepared to take advantage of it. But I do think in your business, when you do meet those people that can change your trajectory, spending the time on yourself, spending the time to prepare how to approach them, how to talk to them, how to put yourself in the right mindset so that you're giving value as much as you're asking for value in return is the difference between success and failure, I think, in the end.
So I want to push you back a tiny bit.
Please.
So you said, and I'm not pushing back on the luck. I love the idea of, expanding the ability to get and be lucky. Okay. I'm in 1,000% agreement with you on that. And that is putting yourself in the right place in the right times. And you don't know when the right place and the right time is. So it's putting yourself out there. It's going and it's doing all the things and it's sending the email. The part that I want to push you back on is, what wasn't part of luck for you, John? And I've never said this to you, but what part of luck, it wasn't luck that when you emailed and we talked, that our relationship took off. That was not luck. That was not by virtue of it being 2017 or whatever it was, and I wasn't that busy, or I didn't have this yet, or whatever. It really, John, it was, you came to the conversation with what you just said. Like, I have a thing. I think it's great. I think I see how the thing could be great for you and what you do. I'm open to your thoughts and ideas on how it could be great for you and what you do. But whatever you decide is great for you in this, I'm willing to try it. like you were. And the thing is, because what I know is, Fernando, the CEO of Duke Renders, 4 or 5 years later, the same conversation. He literally emails, I'm a fan of the show. Can I have a meeting with LuAnn? And I get on the phone with them and I'm just like, okay. And the thing is, I just had it most recently with a gentleman that I introduced you to. And he's coming out with his own custom cabinetry line. And I'm like, Scott, I think you got a good thing here. I think you got a good thing. I don't think it's fleshed out yet. I'm not sure you've got the path yet, but I think you got a good thing. And so for me, I think it's what you did was you were willing to say, hey, maybe I could help you. I think you could help me. That's pretty sure, but maybe I could help you. And what would that look like? And then for me, the secondary thing is always, there was, just like with Fernando and Sarah Daniele the year before you, there was a genuine connection where I'm just like, this is a good human on the other side of this phone. Like I could sense it. Like my inner voice was like, good human. Not sure where this is going to go, but if the only place it goes is cocktails at High Point, I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying?
We've had a few cocktails.
Yes, right. And so that's a thing. And I think, but you're stating it in there. You're saying you have to come to it with, what are you going to provide, right? Like if you're going to look for strategic relationships and strategic partnerships, it can't just be, I need, I want.
Exactly.
And you, Sarah, and Fernando all walk through the door with, well, what can I do? And I will tell you something else, and not to, take your thunder and your steps here.
Oh,
but,
I got plenty of thunder.
Okay. What I know is for each of the three of you, IDS, Jenny Cano has also been the same type of partner with me. Each of you have consistently showed up and helped me. Like I've said to people say to me all the time, how did you get to do a panel at High Point, and how do you get to, put together the people and this and that and the other thing? And I'm going to tell you what, I have not organized a single panel in 8 years. You have done it. Sarah has done it, Duke Renders has done it, and Jenny Cano has done it, and Maddie. Each one of you have went and banged down the doors and said, I'll bring LuAnn, she'll bring these, we'll put people in your seats, in your showroom. Do you want to do a panel? I've never done that. And now at this point, because of the exposure that you guys gave me, and I will say, like you said, be prepared to be lucky. I think I'm a good moderator, right? But now what happens is people who don't know me, PR reps who don't know me are like, hey, have an opportunity for a panel. Can we interest you in it? But I know very clearly that no one would ever have seen me moderate a panel if it wasn't for you, Sarah, and Jenny, and now Fernando. I know it for a fact.
It's funny when you mention those people too, because it's not only do you like those people, but we all kind of know and like each other.
Oh yeah, I'm like, so, oh no. Every time, like when I met Fernando, I'm like, oh, you're gonna love John and Sarah and Jenny. I'm like, I got to get you with these people. Like I like my people together. I like my people because I know you're good people. You all have your individual goals and objectives of helping designers make their businesses more efficient and more profitable through your product or service, right? And you understand it's a two-way street. It's like, I help you, you help me, you help the designer helps you. It all goes around. And you know the difference when you're aligned with somebody that today they're doing something for you and the next day you're doing something for them and nobody's keeping score.
Yeah. Well, let me, if you don't mind, can I break that down even a little further? So I think there's two elements of it. So you mentioned Fernando, you mentioned Sarah, you mentioned Jenny, Maddie. They're great examples for me, right? In the sense of there's multiple types of partnerships that you can have. So Sarah, I'll start with Sarah. I've known her the longest of the group you just mentioned, and we talk semi-regularly, not as much as either of us probably would like, but
right.
Busy, families and businesses and all of that. But so Sarah, I think the world of Sarah. I think she's brilliant, and I anytime I get a chance to talk to her and kick things around with her, it's been really valuable. But in terms of direct transactional relationship, none of my stuff's on her platform. Her platform has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Right.
She could go out of business tomorrow. It's not going to affect, she won't, obviously she's doing great, but I could go out of business tomorrow. It's not going to change anything she's doing. We don't have a real business relationship.
Right.
But having said that, we've kicked stuff over to each other all the time. So it's almost like a peer type partnership in that sense. Like you never know when someone's going to be able to offer value or not. And then which leads to the other piece. So you have two elements of this. The first is a transactional, which I think you just talked about. Here's the value I provide you. Here's the value you provide me. But then you mentioned the good human part, and that's the other piece, right? There's a beyond transactional. So I've worked with people in the past where they've only focused on the transactional, and that's a huge mistake. I've worked with somebody, I'm not going to throw shade on anybody, but I worked with somebody, they had a client they were working with, connected me. It was fine. We were working together. It seemed well enough. I know at one point they needed something. I was on vacation. It was the only vacation I'd had in like 3 years. I said, look, I'm on vacation right now, but I can get to this evening when I get back to the hotel. I'm getting back. This is an important client. You need to do this all right now. It was just like, you're not serving me well enough. I can tell you I never worked with that person again. Ironically, the client never worked with that person again either. The client is actually now friends with me as well, but not any of the people you just mentioned, but it's, but my point is like, so there was value there for each side, but if you don't, you have to go beyond the transactional as well. And that's when somebody wants to, like, the people you mentioned, and obviously yourself as well, like, I want to be around those people. Right. Even though our stuff has nothing to do with Duke renders. We've talked about maybe trying to find a way to make it work. It doesn't really fit at this point, but that's okay. Right. And it may never fit, and that's okay. I like Fernando. And if it's something pops or something changes in my business or his business where it works in 5 years from now, he's going to call. I'm going to take his call immediately, and I'm going to see whatever I can do to help him. Well,
the thing is, I think we have to understand the help doesn't always come in that I'm going to buy something from you or I'm going to sell something from you. Like each time I met each one of you, like when I met you, I'm like, Sarah, you got to know him. He's also like, he's like you. He's like a computer techie guy, and he's starting a platform, a software company, but it has, the end product is, hardwood flooring. But you know what? The way each of you are young CEO inventors of a brand new product in a space, you share the space, you share the ultimate end consumer is the same, but everything you do is completely different. And it was the same when Fernando came along. I was like, you got to know, you have to know John, and you have to know Sarah, because again, you're not doing the same thing, but and the thing is, I have watched you guys sit and talk, and it is not like, it is not what have you done for me lately. It's just, what do we all know that one of us needs to know? And we sit in a group and we talk and we kick around ideas. And it's like, it's to your point, when I've had many transactional opportunities and completed projects over 8 years. They're fine. They're great. I sell stuff. People buy it. That's awesome. You know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with that.
You want to come and buy a sponsored show and I never see you again? It's fine.
You can't be best friends with everybody you do business with. I mean,
and the thing is, it doesn't all align, right? And so that doesn't mean that the transactional thing is a negative. Nope. It's just that I think your message is, have a radar for when the opportunity can transcend the transactional, when that partner, that strategic partner can transcend like whatever you could buy or sell them. It's what other things can we do together, right?
Right. It's different than just the transactional part is like, how do I get more clients?
Right.
And so that's like your client, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's just not my secret sauce, is not how did I find more clients, right? It's what turbocharged the business for me was those relationships with people, I think, lateral to myself, or people who were more successful than me, like yourself. And then it's, what is that human element, and so the value, and a lot of people don't think about that. They really look at it as just, like you said, just the transactional.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right? That's a customer relationship, I guess.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like to relate it to an individual designer's business, right? It's what are those key partnerships? Is it your flooring guy? Is it your painter? Is it your window treatment expert? Like, who are the people that, yes, you do business together, but to your point of that one conversation when you're on vacation, how do you treat each other? How do you show up for each other? Like, I can tell you over the years at Window Works, do I ever want to get the phone call that, we've been in the calendar to go to out, say, the Hamptons for 2.5 weeks. I've arranged with installers to stay in a hotel, to be away from their families. And the day before, get the call that like, hey, you know what? The so-and-so didn't go in, so you can't do the window treatments. But here's the thing. You can't come Thursday and Friday, but you absolutely have to be here Monday and Tuesday. And I'm just like, sweet Jesus. Like, this is not like could you just come at 2:00? Like, I've got lives. I've got people with children and families, and we've got other projects going on. But who's the one that we move heaven and earth for? Right? The designer that we have a relationship with, not the transactional, client / designer that is always like just taking advantage and always in it for them and doesn't understand, the biggest thing that happens with the designers who approach things transactionally is the disrespect of telling any one of the trades a fake deadline date. That is my pet peeve. I am a grown woman. I run a business. I respect you and appreciate your business. And if your, clients, retirement party is June 2nd, do not tell me it's May 2nd and make me a lunatic. And then I get to the house on May 2nd and there's no furniture there. And I know you're full of crap. See, that's functioning from a transactional standpoint. Like, we're talking about it, me and you and Sarah and Fernando, all at this level of sponsorship and our businesses aligning and all that. But there is the relationship and the lesson for the individual interior designer's business in this conversation. Agree?
Yeah, no, I love what you just said. And if I can break that down for a second. So let's say I want to build, I want to have that relationship with you. We don't have that relationship in this hypothetical example, but I want to be somebody that you want to want to bend over backwards for, right? And not necessarily the pet peeve thing. So you touched on something that I think is really important. And I think whenever you're starting a relationship with somebody or reaching out with that, those pet peeves, like, it really comes down to just manners. And I don't mean it like the way you're thinking. Like, there's manners, like you say please and thank you and don't chew with your mouth open. Right. Yeah, like those are fine. Those are important too. But I mean, like, personally, right? We all have our own set of things that bother us. And somebody who we want to vibe with, somebody who feels like understands us, respects us, gets us.
Respect is what it is.
Right.
I don't want to be manipulated. Because I'm in charge. I'm in charge of making sure my business can do the very best thing it can do. If you can't see that in every way I've shown up to our relationship, and you think you have to lie to me to get me to do a little bit better, then you've lost me. You've lost me at hello, because you have not seen me and who I am.
Right. And so everybody has those things that you just said. So if I'm listening carefully, and I hope your audience is, and they want to get to know you better, don't do that. So, but there's little things like, so there's some that are true for a lot of us. For example, if you realize when you reach out to somebody, so I'm reaching out to LuAnn, and I think LuAnn can help me, and she's connected to all these great people she just listed. And I want to be part of that group. Right. I think I'm one of those people. I'm as cool as Fernando. I'm not, but somebody listening might be. And I'm not gonna, I don't know. I can't be in the same room with that guy. He just makes me look too bad, but I hope he's listening. But but I think if I'm thinking, okay, I want to be like that. So the key, right, is understanding and presenting yourself in a way where that person is going to know that you understand and get them. And part of that is their personal manners. So in your perfect example, right, giving you a fake deadline because they don't trust that. To you, it says, I don't trust you. Right. And that's not going to work. And so you might get you to maybe hustle a little more, pull your hair out one time, right?
One time. That's what it gets you. It gets you one time.
You cannot build a business with one time,
no.
Right? I mean, even customers, clients, like, repeat business is the lifeblood of most businesses. And if you're not going to get repeat business, like maybe you don't get the same client over and over again, referrals are the next best thing, right? And they're not going to refer you. So, thinking about it in a short term, one time transactional, how can I get over on you this one time, right? It's stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, as they say, or whatever your
Yes.
currency is, wherever you're listening, but equivalent. But and I think from that perspective too, right? Like, so I know for a lot of people, if I've reached out to you and you've set up an appointment and you're willing to talk to me, and then I don't show up, or I forget, or you're just like waiting. Like, I know somebody was listening to, no, I don't know the guy personally, but I respect him. He has a 10-minute rule. Somebody makes him wait more than 10 minutes without and it's one thing, right? You get busy and you're like, hey, I'm tied up, or that's not what I'm talking about.
But let me know,
right?
right?
Yeah.
But let me know.
What I'm
Don't
talking
just
about
go
is you
by
made
it.
an appointment for me for 2:30 or 4:00 or whatever time, and you just didn't show, and I called you and you didn't answer, and you were, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not taking you seriously anymore.
No, I've had it on the podcast. I've had it on the podcast where somebody has made an appointment to be on the show. And look, full disclosure, the line is long. I mean, like I'm grateful that so many people want to share their knowledge and their story on the podcast, but I'm one person and 2 shows come out a week. So, right now we're talking in June, and if you apply now, you're getting an interview in March or April of next year, right? But like, the thing is, I will get to that appointment and somebody just won't be there. And I'm just like, oh, see,
right.
it's
You don't get another
very
shot.
hard for me to do that. To your point, because it just leaves a bad taste, right? And I happen to be more forgiving than I think most people. Now, here's the thing. In the places I'm willing to be forgiving on, right? I'm not willing to be forgiving if you're manipulating or being dishonest with me, right? So that is a deal breaker, and I go from 0 to 60. But when you don't show up for an appointment, I'm going to give you benefit of the doubt, because look, I've raised kids. Stuff happens, right? But what happens when we come right in and we're like, hey, is everything okay with you? You had an appointment to do a podcast interview. Because sometimes you get like, oh my God, I screwed up the time zone. Okay. I don't think it's very professional, but it's understandable,
It
right?
happens. Yep.
But when there's nothing, and then we're reaching out like the next day, and I'm just like, nope, stop reaching out. We're done. Because to your point, just send a smoke signal.
Right. Or something, some kind of email, or however you communicate, that at least you can show you tried. Because it's respect,
actually more
right?
important. It's actually more like missing a podcast interview. I mean, whatever, right? Like, I'm not saying that's going to make or break your business. What your
but
point
that's an hour of your time that you could have been doing something else, and that hour was not valuable. I get that hour right back. Right. But that hour is valuable.
Yeah,
right?
But we're really talking about like a designer makes an appointment to meet a builder.
Right.
And
or a vendor.
Really what's more likely to happen is the builder or the painter makes an appointment to meet a designer and doesn't show up. Like, let's be serious.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Right?
I've seen
But
that.
you know what it is? Like, maybe you're interested in pitching yourself to do a licensing project with somebody, and you send an email and then they respond, and then you don't pick up the ball and you don't keep the conversation going, or that's what you're talking about. You're like, don't drop the balls, right?
Right. So, well, typically if somebody's going to invest in you, right? Like, and this is more if again, are you the kind of person that people are going to want to work with? And you have to think beyond just, there was a guy in our business locally that, he at one point had it was like a GC that was feeding him work. He was a contractor, flooring contractor, and a GC was feeding him work. And at one point, the GC got himself into a situation he needed help. Like, the job wasn't done right. He called this guy and asked him to help him. And the guy overcharged him intentionally, knowing he kind of had him over a proverbial barrel. Oh. And it was like, he got an extra 50 cents a foot or whatever it was to fix this job that one time. But there was probably $35,000 to $50,000 a year worth of work that this guy was going to continue to feed him with, and he didn't. Right. So he got it. He got the extra 50 cents. Like, he did it, no one's going to make a fool out of him. And then lost 30 grand moving forward. So I think it's part of sort of anytime you talk to it, like, and I guess it's different, right? So if it's a peer, it's a little easier, but if it's somebody who's like senior to you in their career, like maybe as a designer, you want help from a designer who has been around a lot longer, has more of a
Right.
following, right? Is a little
Right.
bit like, I want to learn from this person, whether it's,
More business
like
experience.
yeah, like a Corey Damon Jenkins or Sandra Funk or somebody that you look up to and admire and
Mhm.
want to, you're just new and you want to get to know them. And it's like, well, how am I going to get Sandra Funk to give me the time of day? Right.
Right.
But if you know Sandra, and both of us do, she's a very warm and giving person. And I mean, she's busy and she's very serious about what she does and she's good
Right.
at what she does, but she's not approachable. And it's not like she doesn't want to give back when she can. And so understanding that, right, to approach somebody like Sandra, my hypotheticals, which I hope she's listening to, but I'm talking about her behind her back in a very public space. But I think the world of her, and she already knows that. So to approach somebody like Sandra, my hypothetical situation, the key is to put yourself in that mindset. So this is a person that could be doing literally talking to anybody else right now, could be doing a million other things right now. Now, why would she want to talk to me? So my approach needs to be concise, to the point, friendly. Here's what I'm looking to do, or here's what I'm wondering if, you could spare a minute and help me. And I really, the other piece too is doing some research. So if I'm going to reach out to you and ask you, hey, will you I want to do a sponsored show, with my platform about day trading on the stock market. And I know, you're a financial person, right? But you're like, not this show, maybe. Right. So you got to do it's for a 5-minute email, you need to do like 5 hours worth of research, right? Like you want to make sure, because again, you're presenting yourself like you understand this person because their time is valuable. And I get cold emails all the time from people that want something from me or want to sell me something, and they have no idea what my business is, what I do. And I'm like, no, I don't. This is not an avenue that I use in my business, nor do I want to.
Right.
So I don't even respond, right? It's not even worth it. I hate to be that guy, but I feel like if you're not going to take the time to learn about me, I don't owe you the time of
I have
a
no
response,
compunction either.
right?
I have no. You same thing, pitching me to be on the show because I sell candles. Okay. That's awesome.
Right. I got really
sell
good.
Candles somewhere where they also sell candles.
Trade only candles. This is my Candles
but
Direct.
The thing is, and I'm thinking about like places where this also applies to an interior designer is like, for example, reaching out to builders or architects, right? It's like, you don't want to just reach out to an architect and be like, hi, I can design, the interiors of the homes that you have, made plans for. You got to know a little bit about them. Do the types of homes that they design or the builder builds, are they aligned with your aesthetic? Do you even like them? And what are the past projects that they've done that you can mention something with sincerity about, right? It's like, there's lots of places that an interior designer can and should develop strategic partnerships also. We're talking about how you did it for your business, but the lesson is the exact same.
Oh, 100%. It
right?
doesn't apply just to a guy starting a flooring company.
Yeah,
I mean, this is really, well, if you're in roofing, you really don't need anybody. You just do it all on your own. Yeah, exactly. And I think the point is, especially most interior designers in the residential space are most, solopreneurs or a couple people's shops. And man, it can get lonely and it can get tough. And I think, even having people who can help you or people who've been there or people who it can save you so much headache. If you had somebody like, I'll come back to Sandra, that is willing to look at what you're doing and say, yeah, don't do that. Right. Or you just saved me 6 months and, $250,000 that I spent on a YouTube video. Wish I had that then. But I think that's part of it, right? It's doing your homework and being prepared. If somebody emails you or and another way of doing that too is a warm intro. Yes. You never know. I mean, the fact that there's a lot of people I know now because I know you. So there's the direct benefits of our relationship. But again, you mentioned Fernando and Sarah and Jenny, and I didn't know any of those people prior to that. Right. And so it balloons out and you just don't always know the benefit. And a huge part of that comes down to how you present yourself and also just being a good human. Now, you don't want people to necessarily walk on you, but there's a difference, right? There's a difference between letting somebody walk on you and understanding
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I
oh, you're
think,
on vacation. Okay. You know what? I understand. Maybe if you could get to it tonight, I understand that. Like, I really appreciate, I understand you're
yeah,
taking time out of your vacation to help me. And I want you to know I appreciate it.
right, right, right. As
Right. I mean,
opposed to,
sometimes you
this
just
is
need that.
ridiculous.
Like,
Yeah.
this is what's expected. I'm
Yeah.
being tough.
Yeah. Well, and it's a sin. That's why I say, like, to some extent, internet and the cell phones, they ruin business for all of us because, I remember a time in business when you couldn't call me on vacation. Like, you just couldn't. Like,
Oh,
it
what
was
was that like?
literally
Describe it in
oh my
detail.
God, it was so amazing. Like, you left the work at 5 o'clock and that was it. You couldn't be reached. It was
Ugh,
like, I mean, I think about that. It
I
was
can't.
so great.
I don't even know. I couldn't even imagine. That was it. Say like own your own business and you can choose your hours, right? As long as it's
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Choose all of them, right?
But I think you're right, and I think but I think all that ties into. So the question is like, how do you do that, right? Like, oh well, it worked out great for you, hooray! How do you do that? And I think the key, I mean, honestly, this could be a whole book as far as like how to compose an email so that you don't look like a jerk. Because it is like, it's all etiquette, right? It's all
Yes.
manners. But the key, the very first approach, I guess, is I'm going to tease my book coming out that I haven't written yet. How to Not Be a Jerk by John. The author of That One Time I Was a Jerk and Got in Trouble. So the, I think the key is always putting it's sort of a sense of empathy. Put
Yeah.
yourself in the mindset, really take a minute, quiet
Yeah.
down before you write that email. Put yourself in the mindset of the person you're writing to and ask yourself these questions. What do I want out of this? Let's say you're angry, right? Let's say maybe you do have a relationship with somebody and something hasn't gone well. Maybe, and this is true with your vendors, your builders, your architects, your clients, your whatever. Before you do any of it, and true if you're reaching out to somebody for the first time, somebody like a LuAnn, for example, or a Sandra, and you're saying, you have to ask yourself, what do I want from this?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want from this? Right? Because it's like, I'm mad. And in the negative case, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm mad and I want you to know I'm mad. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's fine. But what do I want? Do I want this to be resolved? Do I want a new whatever unit to be replaced? Do I need someone to come fix this? Do I need money back? Like, what do I want from this? And then the question is, okay, what's the best way to go about this? So if I'm talking to somebody at a big company, I know they're probably not going to have the ability to just wave their hands and make this happen. So how can I phrase this in a way that's going to get through the corporate spokes to how I want this done? If it's, I want this person to help me or build that relationship with them. How do I, what do I want from this? Well, then I need to understand, right? They're very busy. I need to be respectful of their time. I need to know, sometimes it's not even the transactional isn't always like, well, here's a thing where I can make you money. People who are really successful most people who are rich and successful have gotten that way because they're actually good, kind people. Like the really nasty people that are rich usually inherited their money because you can't really build anything by being cheap and nasty and underhanded. It just doesn't work long term.
No.
So most people want to give back. And so the thought of like, here's a young person or whatever who's just starting out, like a lot of people help me get to where I am. Like, here's an opportunity for me to give back. Like there's joy in that for a lot of people. I know I feel it when I help people but I don't help everybody, right? If you send me an email that it's either a warm intro, oh, hey, I know Jenny, or Sarah said I should talk to you, or LuAnn said I should talk to you, I'm much more likely to want to take that. Or if they reach out separately and they say, look, I listened to the show you did on strategic partnerships, and honestly, it spoke to me. I'm more likely to probably answer that email because you did the work and a little bit about me.
Yep.
And even if I know I'm not going to get anything out of this other than the opportunity to maybe help someone, I'm super busy. I mean, I get 350 emails a minute. I think I just got 12 when I said that. You're the same way. I know you are. So, but I don't either. I'll read them later. Like, you'll get an email from me. Oh my God, sorry, I missed this. But deep down there is this joy that comes from saying like, it's not all just about I got mine and that's it. Close the door behind you. Most people want to be able to give back and understanding that too. But you got to make it easy for them to help you.
Yeah. Well, and I think, to just like put it like a bow on it, I think the final other thing I would say about it is you need to be prepared, to your point, You need to be prepared for the conversation. You need to have done some of the homework on who this person is. If it's an architect you're reaching out to, it's a builder you're reaching out to, it's a brand that you're reaching out to because you think you might have a great idea for doing a product or something like that. Even if it's a brand that you want to, do an event in their showroom or something like that, right? It's like you need to understand why that would align with them. Right? What is it in what you have that would align with them? And you can only understand that if you've, to your point, taken the time to research and understand who and what they do and who they do it for. But then the second part of that, like for me, is just show up like that human. Do not, position, and do not overthink like I've got to be, super impressive, or I've got to be cagey and hold something back, or, I think one of the things that I've appreciated the most with the relationships with, the highest level relationships that I have, like those of you guys, is how many times have we said to each other, I don't know how we both get a win-win out of this, but let's talk it through, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's like we don't pretend that we have all the answers. We don't pretend that I know I'm famous for saying, what can I do for you in this? What would make it that this is a good thing for you? Because why do I want to sit there and try and figure it out? You might be sitting there with it already. Oh my God, if you would just do this. So maybe the architect, like you're like, what would make your life easier as an architect? Like I have an idea of what I bring as an interior designer to value to an architect's firm if you're going to refer me on a regular basis. But honestly, what are the things that you value in the designer relationship that make it easier for you to get up every day and do what you do? Ask somebody what they want. Like maybe you can give it,
Yeah.
Like
No,
it's like
it
what I'm
was,
saying is leave the caginess out. Like you all know I love to negotiate. I love it. But we're not negotiating at the beginning of a relationship. Negotiation when we hit a conflict, right?
yeah,
In the
right.
beginning, let's just assume we're all in it for the right stuff, and just present and have open mind, and is what I'm saying.
Oh,
really.
I think you're totally right. I mean, if you send an intro email to someone that's like, look, if you'll do this and then I'll provide this for you. And, I mean, there's one thing saying like, hey, I loved this podcast you were in, or I loved this article you wrote. I'm so-and-so, and I'm looking for something. I would love to just pick your brain about a few things. Is a little that you're not negotiating, right? Like if you do this, and I've had a just quick side note on that. I've had a lot of designers reach out to us that typically just want floors for their house. And then they'll say that they'll offer by using it as like Instagram fodder that somehow will justify the cost in my mind.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so you just asked me for like $50,000 worth of material and labor, and you're going to give me a blog post.
Yeah.
In return, you need to make sure that blog post is worth $50,000 because I'm telling you right now, it ain't. So,
right.
Then you just kind of come off like a grifter. But it's, but to your point, right, that's right. And you said something else that kind of reminded me of one of the first times after I did the show the first time. And I thought at that point, maybe that was it. Like we had a great time. And I thought, okay, well, that was fun. And then you called me out of the blue and asked, because you were thinking of taking it into the real world, taking Power Talk Friday into the real world and doing the thing in Vegas. And you kind of were telling me about the dinner. I was like, well, and I've told this story before if anyone's heard in the old episodes, but then if you haven't, quick recap. I remember saying, you know what I really want? I've never been to one of these markets. I don't know anybody in this industry.
Yeah.
I'll do the dinner. I'll sponsor it. We'll do the whole thing. Can I follow you around for a day at the Vegas market and just introduce me to some people?
Just open the doors.
Which was not, I don't think it was a huge ask for you because you were like, oh, is that it? Yeah. Okay. For sure. Okay. You're like, whatever that's all you wanted. But for me, right. I met Sarah at that event in person for the first time. We spoke on the phone once before that, but I met Nancy Gansikofer. There was a whole list of people.
You met Jenny that year?
Yeah. I mean, it was that I just hadn't, again, that opened up so many more doors for me. That really changed the whole trajectory of my life. And so, but that was what I wanted was at that point, it was just that. I was
Well,
like, yeah,
and
the
that
dinner sounds great. That's fine. I'll be there. It'll be great. But
right. Well, and that's my point. Like if you are sitting there and you've investigated and researched an architect or a builder or whatever, and you're thinking, this is what they really want. I'm thinking John wants to be mentioned 6 more times on the podcast that he's sponsoring the event. I'm thinking John wants to be at the table that night for dinner with 15 designers that are coming to Power Talk Friday. I'm thinking John wants his ad in the program guide for Power Talk Friday. And you know what? John did want all those things. He paid for all those things. But he then also said, there's another thing I'd like to have. And I was like, what is it? And that's the thing. So you know, in that case, he said there's one other thing. And by the way, I was happy to do it. It doesn't mean I would have been happy. I might have been like, that's weird. No, right? Like I could have been.
No.
I could have said no.
Yeah.
But the thing
and
is,
I'd have respected that, obviously.
well, I mean, it is what
anyway.
it is, right? Like it is what it is. But my point is, you can ask an architect or a builder or a brand, what makes it like, what are the things that you look for when you partner with an interior designer? What do you want? And I didn't happen to ask because that wasn't the trajectory of that conversation. You had it in your mind. And that is the other thing that I think I was talking about as coming to the conversation as a human and without like positioning and leveraging. Because you could have, think about it, it would have been a completely different thing for us. We all know the times when someone has an ask of us and they make up all these, crazy circles in order to get it. And your brain is like, what is going on? And then when they finally, you're like, oh, that you're trying to make it my idea that you come with me to market. Like, and that's where I'm saying, it's like, just show up as the human and say what John did.
I don't know anybody,
great, but I'd like to hang out with you all weekend at market. I'm like, done. I like people.
I don't know anybody, and I need to get to know some people. But I know that I could walk around market and meet people. But I also knew that a warm intro from you was going to be more beneficial. And the key too, right? You want to make sure whatever you're asking isn't, it's not going to be outrageous. If I'm living in, if I'm in California, and which I'm not, but if I'm in California and I want to meet somebody in Boston and I'm like, hey, can you come out and perform at my birthday party? They're probably going to be like, no. Right. But I've done this before. There was a company that I admired, a small startup outside of the industry. And I was like, I wanted to talk with them. And I was talking with the CEO and I knew they were a small company and trying to build those relationships. So I was able to leverage that into that and say, hey, I'd love to just see the headquarters and talk with you for a minute. And I drove one morning, I got up and I drove 7.5 hours to where they were, not knowing if anything would even come of it. But it was like, like you said, just showing up. And I was like, well, I went and I met with them and I saw it and I learned a lot. And I haven't really kept in touch with them. It didn't seem as valuable after the fact, but just, again, it doesn't always work out, but I was willing to put the work in to drive out there. And then shortly after that, though, I drove down to New Jersey and had dinner with you guys that night. So that was worth it. But it was, but that was a sure thing. I didn't know. The other thing I didn't know, right? I was like, well, I wanted to learn more about this company and see if I can benefit from this and apply anything. It was in the clothing industry, so it wasn't even related. I just wanted to see if there was something I could learn from it. Yeah, because I saw some of the stuff they did, I admired, and I drove out there and I made it happen. But I made it easy for them. That's the key, right? You got to make it easy if you can.
Yeah, 100%. All right.
Yeah,
you have to tell me about you have to tell me about Revel Woods. Like I need
to
know. Oh yeah, you have a business. I need to know because I know that you and the Vid Man are talking every week. He keeps teasing out to me this new point of view, this new way that you're making it even easier for designers. But I'm not up to the details on it. So tell me about it.
Cool. My favorite subject, me. So, in listening to, we've been at this game for a little while. We were kind of the first designer direct, flooring sourcing platform that was all in on the designers. I mean, there's, I don't want to say that other companies don't sell designers. They do, but not at the level that we were doing or the scale, like maybe regionally you've got a company you work with and I think that's awesome. But what we were doing in listening to our designers is trying to understand like what do we need to be doing better? Like what is the biggest pain point and what are we not solving? And there were two. It was delivery, which is awful, but we figured it out. And the other was really just top to bottom. Delivery is only a part of it, making it easier. It needed to be easier. And so we thought we had a pretty easy way to select product, but then fulfilling the product and installing the product was not so easy. And that was something
Okay.
that we didn't want to take responsibility for. We didn't want to do the installation, and we didn't want, because we don't have crews all over the country, and delivery is always really tough. So we had this sort of curbside system where the truck would show up, you got to like lift gate it off, and you'd have to would coordinate getting it all into the house and all that. And that's not a great experience, but it was kind of all we had. So we solved that problem. What we're doing now, and then again, anybody who's worked with us in the old workflow, like anytime someone signs up with them, Aubrey talks with them and kind of understands your business. And this is how this is how we can work with what you're doing. We don't brute force you into something that if you've got a system that works one way, if we can do it, we'll accommodate that. But one of the new things that we started doing is we've partnered with a company called Footprints Floors. They are an installation only franchise. So they didn't traditionally sell product. They were a little bit like, it's an flooring installation franchise and refinishing franchise. And a little bit like if you're familiar with CertaPro painters, or they used to be College Pro painters.
Okay.
It's like that, but for flooring. And so we entered into a partnership with them a little over a year ago, to where they're providing material through our platform, but they're also working with our design partners. So if you have a project that needs flooring, and this works primarily more with remodeling than new builds. We can do it with new builds. It's a different animal over there, and reach out and we'll walk you through whatever you need to do. But if you've got clients that are looking for flooring, if we have our installation partner in your area, they kind of serve as our rep on the ground. So they'll come in and they'll come in, they'll do the measuring, they'll look at the subfloor, they'll do everything for you. They want to work with the designers. They love the high-end referrals they get from the designers. Their primary focus is the labor. So they're going to sell their labor, and then you would source the product through us, but they know us. It's a single point of contact. If you want, if there's any issues, the installer's not pointing to us and we're pointing to the installer and we're saying, well, it was installed wrong. We work all that out with them. It works as kind of as if it was one company. So it's almost like a Revel Woods rep comes in meets with your client. You talk about whatever it is you want to sell in terms of flooring. And if it's feasible, right, if you're not trying to put something where it doesn't belong, you're not going to get any friction from him. He's going to call us. We'll work with him we'll coordinate delivery. We're doing all of our areas now in the home. Delivery is included with the price. So now there's it's almost like DoorDash, right? Like for flooring, it shows up, this guy picks it up from the terminal. It's a third party. He's got the Sprinter van. It'll show his name, here's George in his Sprinter van, and he shows up and we'll take the boxes out and bring it into the home for your client. Like all this stuff we weren't doing a year ago. We're all doing this now. So as a designer, it's like painfully easy. I mean, if there's no way to make it easier other than to just not do it, but then you don't get any money. So, I mean, you're going to have to pick something, but it really couldn't be easier. We get somebody in the home, they take care of it. We all work on it together. The designer, the installer, Revel Woods, all one giant team. So there isn't any kind of friction there. The delivery process, like I said, you can track him. It's like Uber. Like you can see where he is. Oh, he's on 405. He's going to be 20 minutes out. When everything's scheduled. And so they bring it right into the house for them, ready to go. And you're not dealing with the freight companies or anything.
So the only question I have is, I obviously I open up my account at Revel Woods. I have my onboarding with Aubrey, and we'll link the episode in the show notes for when Aubrey was on the show as well. I have my onboarding with Aubrey. She understands my business, my model, what type of products and, things are more likely to be my lane. And I place my orders with you, but you connect me to this other company that's in my area, and then they come out and measure and tell us how many square feet or linear feet to order? Or do I have my account, but then I go to that guy for like, what's the path?
It depends on how you want to do it. In my perfect world, what I envision is maybe so again, we'll private label product for you. You can offer your own product lines and do all of that. And so what can happen is one of two ways. You have the installer, our partner, come out and we'll do the measurements and quote the labor depending on whatever product you've picked. Or alternatively, we can sell it kind of as a package to your client and then kind of commission you on the back end. That limits how much you can make doing it that way.
Right.
Ideally too, we can also quote the designer kind of the package. Here's the material at trade. Here's the labor at a trade discount. and then kind of like what you would do if you were working with a window showroom or window treatment, where it's like, here's the whole thing. And then you're going to quote, like, here's the windows. Right. And forgive me, I don't have the total ins and outs of how the window industry works, but
Right.
I've been trying to pay attention. And I think I know enough to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but, so that is, it could work very similar to that. And then honestly, we can get really flexible, depending on the situation. So if you heard that and we're like, nah, I don't like that, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't do something for you specifically. That's part of what Aubrey kind of works out. But
Okay.
at scale, it works. It's really easy. I mean, it's just so much easier.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot.
The biggest thing I'm hearing is that as much as, Vin and I were both enamored with Revel Woods and the way you brought a product to market that made it foolproof for me, even though I don't know wood flooring to specify wood flooring as far as type and species and color and all of that, and placing the order. What I'm hearing is that you learned through the last several years that I was still left with the other half of the problem. I had to get an installer to cooperate. I had to get a builder to cooperate. I had to figure out how the truck was going to get, from the driveway to in the garage. I had other logistical problems, and that probably deterred a lot of designers that are not big operations from leaning into adding Revel Woods as a profit center for their business. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is you've eliminated that, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not really necessary for me to identify from you the exact path on how it's done, because that path can be altered depending on my business model, but B, I could probably alter it client to client. Like I might do it one way for a whole house new build, and I might do it a different way for a renovation project, I'll bet, even though I'm the same designer working with you and working with that same installer. So the idea is it's very customizable. And so like with interior designers, they have their way of doing things. There's 16,000 different business models. You all have your way of doing things. But I know with my own chairman of the board coaching, like I'm always saying we can make like a little curve in our process for the right reasons, right? We don't ditch our process. But like, for example, simple example, you could be, well, I don't really care if we communicate with my client through email or text. I really don't. Like, I mean, I have personal opinions about that, but the idea is that if somebody only wants to text and you're open to it, as long as you have the fail safes in place, I'm never going to look at a designer and say, there should be no texting with your clients, right? And so that's what I'm hearing here. There isn't one path, but with good conversation with Aubrey and possibly yourself, if it's necessary, you can figure out the path, and it's been paved, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to use our install partner, you don't have to. There's exceptions, and so we would work on it with you, because we notice even like not every designer works the same way, and even that same designer might not work the same way on two different projects.
Right.
And
right.
so the question just comes down to like, if there's something we can't do, like, we'll tell you, and if we have a solution or a suggestion, or say, yeah, here's why this won't work.
Yep.
Or here's why we could do this, but we don't want to, or
Right.
we think you actually don't want to.
Yeah, right.
We have those conversations all day, every day. And a lot of it's very project specific.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is like, you're just not alone out there. I mean, we've got all kinds of resources that we can make it so painfully easy. Or if you really want to get in the weeds, okay. I mean, we'll pick for ticks later, I guess. Like, let's get in the weeds. But
well, that's what I love about Aubrey being such an integral part of your team. Having, she's a working interior designer. She speaks the language. She understands the kind of, obstacles that she runs into with the client, and the kind of obstacles that you run into with the contractors and so forth. And, it's not like you're going to get we'll just work it out answer. She'll say, oh, I've run into that too before. And, this is a way that we come end game around that. So, okay.
She's got a lot of experience, and that's been good. And realistically, you probably won't talk to me much at all. And that's to your benefit. That was the other thing we needed to learn, is nobody talks to John. So, no, that's not true. I'm fun at parties, but Aubrey is definitely she's lived it. She's good. Was another reason we hired her. No, she's really good. And it's been great having her on board, because she speaks the language. She understands as a designer, she understands what you're going through, because she's done it. And frankly, I don't, and I did the best I could with what I had. And I think I did a solid C plus, but it was, given my skill sets, but it wasn't good enough. And frankly, if you need help, obviously I jump in when I need to. And Aubrey and I share an office, so it's not like when I'm able. I had foot surgery, so I'm not in the office right now. But by the time you hear this, I'll probably be all better. But but yeah, we share an office, so it's constant. If she's got a question on something, or has one of you has an issue or something, I'm usually 6 feet away.
In on it, yeah. Well, this has been great, John. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all your advice on, thinking about strategic partnerships and how you might leverage them in your business, and the tactical strategies to making the most of them, and showing up as a good strategic partner. That is really, I think, the final secret sauce on it is show up and be that good partner too. And we will link all the episodes in the show notes for when you've been on the show before, and understand that it is a heck of a lot easier now to work with Revel Woods, and that you've learned. And so I love that.
3 years I'll come back and it'll be totally different. Everything will be delivered by drone, or you can 3D print your floor, and AI will just sell it for you. It's going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh, right?
So if you're in the future listening to this because you heard me on the show 3 years ago and you're like, I want to hear this guy's old episodes, just know that I had that idea.
Yeah, it'll be like me doing business without cell phones. It'll be like, wait, what kind of nonsense are they talking about? Anyway, thank you, John, for being here today. Appreciate you.
Thank you, LuAnn. You too. Thanks.
So I knew that John would have great advice on leveraging strategic partnerships in your business. He made a wonderful point. When people start a business, most want to buy their way in and throw money at everything. He tried that. He admitted embarrassingly that his experience with that designer and YouTube channel, it didn't work out financially or otherwise, right? But he said to himself, all right, that didn't work. How else can we do it? And he took a step back and looked at who he knew in the industry and related industry. And the one person that he went to in the beginning was Aubrey, who is his current head of business development. Aubrey's been on the show. We'll put her episode in the show notes. You want to listen to it. And if you haven't met her in real life, I mean, oh my goodness, you're going to love her. All right. At that point, and as in today, in real time too, Aubrey still runs her own interior design firm. Through her, this is how John reached me, is like he said in the show. And in that first conversation, I could hear it. I could hear that he was the real deal. And I also loved the idea that he was bringing. All right. And so because of the way John handled this and, the way he reflected on the way he's built Revel Woods, I think there are a lot of analogies that you can bring to your business too, right? Maybe it's not a podcaster that you're going to reach out to, because that wouldn't probably do you any good, right? But as I said in the episode, it could be an architect, it could be a builder, all right? And then John was right about improving your luck surface is what he called it, right? And he nailed it on the head when he said you have to be prepared when you reach out to someone for a potential partnership, okay? Yes, of course, you've identified them because of what they can do to benefit you, but you need to consider how you are going to benefit them, how you are going to bring value. And just like when we look for our Fred Burns only, it doesn't have to be this huge thing. It's just something that you can do for them, okay? It's so funny because on the on-air strategy session with Cass Thurston, we'll put that link in the show notes as well. We were brainstorming some ways that she could reach out to builders and express her value to them. So go listen to that. We'll put it in the notes because that will give you some ideas, just thinking about it as I'm talking to you here, all right? All right, and then do not forget about the humanness aspect, all right? Good humans aren't keeping score. Good humans are helping each other, and they look for the ways to help each other. You heard how many times in this episode we mentioned Jenny Cano from IDS, Fernando Duque from Duke Renders, Sarah Daniele from My Doma Studio. We genuinely respect and like each other. We look forward to the times that we can be together in person, and we stay connected all throughout the year on Voxer, okay? Understand, everyone has a life and a family. So what are you doing? Because there's a lot of things, a lot of responsibilities on all of us. So when people who start out as business colleagues, they understand that you really are showing up to help them, to do something for them. In the noise, it stands out. In the noise, it's heard. It's felt, actually, is what I would say. Okay? So it might start with the idea of a transactional sort of relationship, but when you actually truly do bring that human element of respect and caring and paying it forward, then that's when it moves on and it elevates into something. And that something really does benefit you in every way, not just in your business, right? Okay. Another component to preparing yourself when you reach out to someone in your industry, do your research. Yes, do your research. Like, don't not know what you're talking about. Don't know not what the person does. If a builder, only builds, say, commercial, don't be like, hey, would love to work with you on your next residential project. And they're just like, believe me, this kind of stuff happens. I promise you, there has been a builder that's been pitched by a designer to do a residential project, and he or she only does commercial. I promise you. I get this crazy stuff all the time. It's like you don't even know what we do here, okay? And it's aggravating. And the thing is, that person, you the designer who pitched that builder, could be amazing and would be amazing for a residential builder. But when you make a bad first impression like that, even if that builder, his buddy or her buddy that they hang out with is a residential builder, it's sort of like, why would I refer that person? They don't even do their homework. Okay, so with builders, with architects, you probably want to know if your style and your aesthetics align. You want to know if the price point value of the type of homes that you've previously done, then that they do align. There's things that you can just look at, that you look for the common things that you have, like the things that you can say, hey, me too. Hey, me too. And here's a place I can help you because me too. I do that too, right? All right. So give it some thought. Take a pen to paper. Who are some of the key partnerships that you can reach out to? Is it your flooring guy? Is it your painter? Is it your window treatment expert? I know at WindowWorks we have the opportunity, it might be 4 or 5 times a year, to recommend a designer to a client. But who do you think we recommend? We recommend the ones that come to mind. And why do they come to mind? Because they're human to us. They've taken the time to get to know us and to be kind to us and to be a good partner with us. And we are eager to do something back for them. All right? So, all right. Now, and finally, the updates on Revel Woods, right? Love that he took a step back and he'd been listening to you for the last 6 or 7 years, saying what works, what doesn't work, and now forming this partnership with Footprint Floors. Holy cannoli, right? They come in, they measure, they look at the subfloor, they figure everything out for you. Home delivery is included. I love how we compared it to DoorDash. How funny is that, right? You can track the delivery at any given moment. That's awesome. All right, so now everyone, the designer, the installer of Revel Woods, you're all working together to complete the installation. They're there for you. I promise you. Call Aubrey. Even if you're hearing this and you're thinking, I have no idea how I could possibly sell hardwood flooring to a client. Every time I do a project, the builder always does it. Or the client goes to the highway store and picks it out. And then I get paid my hourly fee to stand next to them. Like, I know it's a new animal for you. But Aubrey has done it herself. And she has worked with so many of you, understanding that your process and the way you might not do it is not going to be the way Aubrey does it. It's possible. But she's talked and worked with so many of you that I guarantee you she could help you understand it. It's a conversation. That's all it is. Okay? So I hope that you will consider going to revelwoods.com. Let them know I sent you. All right. And having that conversation with Aubrey. Of course, you can talk to John as well. He's always available for that. And I hope that you'll take John's advice about this strategic partnerships and making yourself a list on who you might reach out to. All right. And of course, we have a goodie for you on this, just a little overview of some of the strategies that John suggests in being a good partner and showing up with all all of the right stuff. Okay, so you can go to LuAnnNigara.com/goodies to get that quick little cheat sheet. All righty. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, John, for being a featured sponsor of the podcast. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.